I thought I just want to say thank you to Martin and the team at Seibert Media for bringing me here. It's a 25-hour trip from Sydney. I was actually just sharing that it's 8 hours just to fly over Australia to Singapore. So most of the time we're flying over Australia, so we're far from everything. Doesn't matter where. So we generally go to New Zealand or Fiji if we want to go for a holiday, because that's the closest thing for us. But I just want to say thanks to Martin and the team here for making me feel very much at home. And I love these opportunities because we are remote in Australia. We only have a few times of the year where we actually get close together with our customers, which is sort of Atlas Camp, which is coming up soon, and Summit. So this is a fantastic opportunity to get to know you a little bit better, and I'm really interested to hear your story, so a little bit later on. But I wanted to start with a little video. I hope you enjoy a little bit of humor. This is a video that we did for our marketing campaign around collaborative dysfunction, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today. So.
Whoa, why so tense?
It's my team. I can't get them to work together no matter what I do.
It sounds like your team has CD.
CD? What's that?
Collaborative dysfunction. It affects lots of teams, especially older ones.
How do I get rid of it?
Just take Confluence. That's what we did.
Really? Does it work?
Totally. Confluence wipes out a lot of the symptoms of CD, like reckless meeting disorder, disruptive email flatulence, or project management stress.
Wow. And it's that easy?
Yes. Just one dose of Confluence and your team will be collaborating in no time.
Sounds great.
Talk to Atlasian to see if your company is healthy enough for Confluence. Do not worry if you experience a rapid reduction in emails and meeting requests, as this is an intended effect of Confluence. Side effects may include improved team dynamics, productivity, and increased levels of creativity. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate help from Confluence if you're in a meeting lasting more than 4 hours. Try Confluence today and stop living with CD.
All right, so we're going to be talking about collaborative dysfunction today, but I just thought I'd get a little bit of an intro about myself. I've been at Atlassian for nearly 5 years. I've actually been at Atlassian, left Atlassian, came back to Atlassian. I've previously been in startups. I spent a lot of time coaching startups in Sydney as well. It's an area of passion for me, and having been a founder a few times, it's great. And I've also spent quite a bit of time in Atlassian because they provide a lot of scope for innovating inside the company too. So I've really enjoyed my time at Atlassian. And more recently, I've taken over Confluence. I used to actually even manage HipChat and Confluence at one stage, but now these days I focus on the Confluence product and the business side as well. So this is me and my wife. We're holidaying in Turkey. Definitely the love of my life, but my other love, of course, is Confluence. Definitely at home, there's a few arguments about who gets more time, but definitely Confluence is a big part of my life, and I'm here to talk to you about how you can help use Confluence for solving your collaborative dysfunction problems. So we're going to talk about collaborative dysfunction today, and because it's about collaboration, we're going to go on this journey together. So if you thought this was me speaking at you today, you're wrong. I'm going to be having, yeah, that's right, I got a few more people's attention now. So we're going to do this together. We're going to get through this. So I'm going to be talking to you about some of the things that you experienced as well. So just be ready, because we're going to get through this together. So what is collaborative dysfunction. So how I've just defined it, and you may think of it slightly differently depending on what your experiences are, but these are some of the things that are really the characteristics of collaborative dysfunction. So we have disengaged staff, people who aren't necessarily engaged just for many reasons, with the tools, with the job, just maybe with the company as a whole. Ineffective teams. So teams that are actually motivated and engaged, but they're ineffective because either their tools, processes, or other obstacles are in their way. And then the other one is around information silos. So when information is being constrained in a particular environment, it hampers ability for people to learn and collaborate on different pieces of information that they would ordinarily be able to see. So these are three areas that I've highlighted around what the symptoms are. But why does it matter? Right? And the reason why it matters is because the pace of change has really moved forward. Right? Now, who's actually feeling the pace of change in their company? Okay, this is the first test. Are we working together as a team? So, if anyone feels the pace of change in their company, raise their hands. Right? Okay. For somebody who raised their hands, does anyone want to volunteer how they feel the pace of change? What are they seeing that's a problem in their organization around maybe a byproduct of the pace of change? Can anyone maybe volunteer? Oh, come on, guys. That was the first test. You got past the first one. What's the second one? Anyone who raised their hands? Going too fast. All right. Okay. So the pace of change has a number of different impacts on different teams, and the pace of change is actually an impact to the whole of company. And one of the key things, and I pulled out this quote because there's a great reminder. I don't know if you've read this guy's book. His name's Peter Senge. He's a professor at MIT, and he said the only sustainable competitive advantage is an organization's ability to learn faster and meet the competition, right? Or beat the competition. And this is a very important quote because the pace of change is really what is keeping you differentiated from the rest of the people in your field. And I thought that this was a useful quote to set this tone today. And what it also means really, I mean, and this is probably the most ruthless sense, is it's sort of the Darwinian law of you adapt or you die, right? And that may be an extreme, but generally they say, you're either growing or you're not, right, as a company, and you're going to eventually go the other way. And adapting or dying is actually something that Fast Company wrote, so I'm not sure if you get the publication in Germany, but Fast Company is an American publication, and they highlighted 3 areas that are around companies, the needs of a company that they need to actually deal with the pace of change and how they can adapt. And the 3 areas was resilience, so ability to actually bounce back from different things that are happening either in the market or even largely caused by themselves. The adaptability of a company. When we say agile, we're not just talking about the process of agile, we're talking about the company being able to adapt and move and be nimble. And then the agility factor is around how they leverage their process and they leverage different people in a smart way to make these moves and adapt, as I said, through innovation and otherwise. So, as I said earlier, these are the 3 reasons that we talk about collaborative dysfunction. And what it really translates to is the different levels, because collaborative dysfunction really happens at 3 different levels. I mean, the video was a bit of tongue-in-cheek look at it, but it was focusing at the team level. And Atlassian is very much about teams, but we acknowledge that it's something that has to start at every level and has to be addressed at every level. So we're going to look at it at all 3 levels. And the things that I'm going to talk about today and some of the things I'm going to share are they're going to be tips about Confluence, and how we leverage our own tools as well, not just Confluence, but our other Atlassian tools. And then the other parts of it, I'm going to share some things about maybe what's unique about our own Atlassian culture and how we leverage our tools, and just not even our tools, it's just our behavior. So at the org level, we see the importance of engaging everyone, right, to create this form of a learning culture. This is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about. And the first thing is, this is another great quote, is if you've seen this, has anyone seen this quote before? Okay. So this is a quote that probably is very much akin to how Atlassian thinks about their own culture, because we spend a lot of time on strategy, and I'm sure you do as well, but culture is something that is ingrained in Atlassian as well as a number of other companies, and it really uses, it helps us guide us to make better decisions as well. You'd be surprised about how many things come up internally and how we use our values as a benchmark for making decisions. So this is a very important quote, because culture is a big part of improving collaborative dysfunction, particularly at an organizational level. So one example of culture, and if you, who knows our values, by the way? Does anyone know our values? You want to call out? Okay, not you, Mum. But anyone else? Yeah, lady at the back? Oh, okay. Anyone not from Seibert Media who would like to maybe, does anyone know this? This is a hint here. That's one of our, does anyone know what that means? The little bull symbol? Okay. So open company, no bullshit is what that value stands for. And really what we use here is really around engagement, right? And how we engage all of our staff, right from the top level, our founders, Mike and Scott, as well as the folks at different levels and how they engage the teams, as well as individuals within those teams. So one key takeaway here is true engagement starts with listening, right? And what that means is, like, one example here is the founders blog, right? We have a blogging culture, and we blog at all different levels. So it doesn't matter, it's not just meant to be corporate information that individuals are sharing. It's anyone can blog. But this is an example of our founders blogging. So our founders have blogged about a particularly interesting topic right now in our industry. So diversity is a challenge in a male-dominated industry in software particularly, which is an industry we're in. And so this is a hot topic, right? And so we wanted to be forthcoming about how we think about diversity, and so this was a blog about how we're thinking about it. We're a data-driven company, we're data-informed, and so there's a lot of stats there around how our diversity numbers are, and we actually publish that openly now as well. So even though that we're a public company, that value has not changed how we think about things. And so this was a very interesting topic, and why I screenshotted this thing at the back for you is because you can see the engagement here. There's 73 comments. There's 400 likes on this particular page, and that's only a percentage of the company that have actually engaged with the page, but many more have read it. And some of the commentary on this is really interesting. People just congratulating our founders about how they're thinking about it. Some people are actually providing feedback and interesting insights into what they've experienced. And so this is how we engage staff on a regular basis. Now, we also have used blogs for things like introduction. So here's a couple of tips for introduction blogs. So we start with introducing yourself. That's a good one. You include a picture, yeah, so this guy's done pretty well here. We say where you're from, so often we actually did a survey recently, it was just an ad hoc survey, where we said for the folks in Sydney, how many people are from overseas, and I think 30 to 40 people stood up, said they were actually from overseas. So actually sharing where you're from and what you're doing is also a very interesting part as well. talk about their hobbies. This person obviously likes mowing lawns. And then the other thing is, what not to do is also not to tell your life story. Some people like to make it really, really long, but people try and keep it succinct so that people will read it and make it engaging content. And what we don't do, and this is another Atlassian thing, is we don't post your resume. We really like to learn how you operate based on what you do and what you work on at the company. And that's the introduction blocks. Another example is with Confluence Questions. Recently, well, it's not that recently, about a year ago, Scott actually posted this question on Confluence Questions, which is our Q&A tool. And he just asked everybody, what do you think the painted picture for Atlassian should be in 2 years? So what would a vision be for Atlassian in 2 years? And this was a simple question. He maybe provided a couple of thoughts here, maybe because Scott is particularly very metric driven, so he put some examples there. And 192 answers came back from different people across the company. And not just 192 answers, people were voting those answers in as well, voting those up for what they liked. So that's another example of how we didn't just send the message out there and said, hey, read it. It was actually about active listening and allowing people to engage with the content that was being shared. The other one was around, oh, don't know what happened here. The other one, and how we actually engage our teams and allow them to be the change they seek, which is another one of our values, is innovation, right? And who's done a hackathon in their company before? Yeah? Okay. Who's actually from a software company? Okay, all right, so about 50%, I think, yeah. So innovation, interestingly, so we're a software company, but maybe 50 to 60% are R&D, and the rest are, supporting stuff, right, around either administration, finance, legal, and so on. And innovation isn't something that we say, hey, you're the innovation team, and you go innovate. We actually say, hey, everyone has the chance to innovate. Everyone has the opportunity to innovate. So every quarter we have this thing called Seibert. It used to be called FedEx, until FedEx contacted us and said, stop using our name. But it was kind of a compliment, because if FedEx knew about the fact that we were doing these things, that was a good thing. So enough people knew in the world. So we call it Seibert now. And Seibert is a thing that we run every quarter. It's basically you start on day one, you get a team, you put that team together, think of an idea, you pitch your idea into a Jira ticket. It's all run through Jira. And we, through the workflow, you go through certain rounds. And it's just like a disrupt event, a TechCrunch disrupt event. And you get voted up until you get to the finals. And so the next day, next half a day, it's all voting, and part of the value is presenting your innovation. And it could be a new feature, it could be basically a new capability that's specific to internal Atlassian. And now that we have so much more people than other than just R&D or technical people, it's much more open. There were 1,500 entries in this last time, and it's an incredible amount of entries. And the reason why it's so popular is because everybody's getting involved. So the HR team shipped a new blueprint that helps new starters on board. So it's basically a new blueprint that highlights all the things you need to read, who you need to meet, gives people tasks, and so it's who's your buddy during your first 90 days. So these are all examples of how different teams across the company are innovating. And now Confluence is that place where the value of innovation, the value of some of the things I talked about earlier in terms of not just innovation, but how we engage everybody across the company is because everything is inside of Confluence, right? And Confluence is not just about just one place, it's also about living content. And living content, you can see different types of content there. It could be meeting notes, it could be decisions, it could be retrospectives, it could be incident reports about things that are happening or failures of particular systems across the company, and so on. And so Confluence is about living content, because you can get content not just that are created on pages, but content that is based on files that live outside of Confluence, and linking all of that content to web stuff as well. The next thing is that in addition to it being in one place, you have what we call a shared content experience, right? So the key thing here is that it's bringing people together by having a single experience for that. So the shared content experience is a critical part of making this tool very different to how other people engage with tools. For example, if you're working in either Dropbox or your inbox, your email inbox, you often have your personal view of that content. Whereas in Confluence, it's more like the internet. It's like the web. So when you go to Wikipedia, if I go to Wikipedia, I'll read the same information that Martin sees. And that's a very important part, because if you all have the same shared experience, you're also engaging at the same level. So that's a very important facet as well. So the next part at the team level, and I'm going to focus on this a little bit more because we're all about teams, is helping teams get work done together, right? So as I talked about information silos, so who uses any of these tools that are up here or has used some tools like this? Now obviously email is still a very big part of your life, and we're not saying email is going away, but what we are saying is how can you actually improve and use email for what it was originally intended for, which is a communication tool, but it's not the best tool potentially for collaborating, right? But often, because people are so used to it, like there's an old adage, you could probably get between an email tool and a spreadsheet tool, you could probably replicate any other application on the market, right? In some way. And that's the problem with email, you tend to abuse it, right? And so the challenge is, how do you actually get people out of the inbox and use email just for what you need? So we think getting rid of those silos is a critical part for helping the teams to collaborate. So let's talk about email and one of the challenges we have. So is this I'm just going to ask you if this is a common thing. So I've got a message and I want to send it to my team. So I go send it off. And then one person replies, right? So it'll be, you'll get some replies. So somebody will reply, and that's great. And then you'll get some more replies, and then people will reply to all. Some will reply just to you. Not everybody will see what was replied to. Then somebody else joins the team, right? And they're saying, oh, hey, what happened? What just happened in that email thread? Or did I miss something? So that's a pretty often symptom. Is this sounding familiar? Is this starting to feel a little bit of pain here that we're all feeling? So the other one is, if I either joined the team or whether I started new or I've been around for a long time, the problem is it gets lost in your inbox. What happens? You archive it, you send it off, and it goes away. And then you can't actually access it anymore. It's gone. It's not memorialized, and you don't learn because it ends up going into these silos. And often, if I leave the company, I take that information with me. So the problem is you don't have any future reference, and so you're not learning, and that's a real problem because you're often companies. I actually spoke to a customer the other day, and they said we want to try and kill Office tools because people are creating the same documents over and over again. right? So hopefully this is something that people are feeling that they can actually get out of Confluence and put things in Confluence. The other thing is people don't necessarily feel engaged because I'm just new, I just started, and I've actually been left out. So that's a problem at a team level. So with Confluence, I think one of the things that you benefit from is the fact that I put it on a page, everybody sees it. Not everybody has to reply, but we know if you do reply, everybody can see it. So you can either like it, you can comment, you can also inline comment. You can drop more content on there if you want to make some changes. You can opt in for updates, so you can either watch the page or you can choose to let it go if it's not of interest to you. If new members start, they can reference the page. And the best thing is it's referenceable forever, and I think that's a really, really important thing. So when people go, they don't take that information with them, right? And remember, we're talking about a learning organization here, right? And it's far more collaborative because we can all participate in that story, right? So as I said, Atlassian is all about teams and improving how teams work. I wanted to give you one example. So because about 50% of the room are dealing with software teams in some way, I thought I'll give you a software example. But before I do that, I wanted to talk about 3 ways in which teams leverage Confluence. We've done a lot of studies recently, looking at over 10 years of analytics, as well as qualitative insights from talking to customers. And not saying that these are the only 3 things that people use Confluence for, but at a high level, we've seen that these are the 3 broad areas that customers engage with Confluence at a content level. So I'll walk through each of those. So lightweight project collaboration. So often when you're starting a project, you want to do your planning, you want to do capture some information that's related to your team, and you also maybe want to create a little roadmap or some project planning information. And this is before you actually start putting that information in the Jira, because once you get it in the Jira, you're doing more hardcore tracking. But often teams need to get a start, and so they need a space to work in, right? And so often Confluence is that place to do that. It's lightweight project collaboration. You have some tasks, you put some meeting notes in there, and you can always ramp up to connect with Jira when you want to do that. So you can add tickets and use the Jira issue macro to add that to a page as well. The other thing that people do is what we call self-service documentation. So an example of this is if you're working with Jira Service Desk, you can create a knowledge base. Our HR teams use information like policies, procedures to put content in there. And largely the use case here is people accessing it. I'm a staff member. I need to understand what my insurance policy is for Atlassian before I take a trip to Germany. So I will access that information on this space, and I don't have to talk to somebody about that. I can get that information myself, and the HR team can scale, right? They can put that information out there and have people read that and access and find the right answers, right? And that's a key thing. The other thing is around team information. So there are things that are important at a team level that they want to memorialize and store, and that's really valuable for long term. So I gave you that example of email. There are a lot of things that are captured and knowledge that's captured for a team level. So it could just be as simple as, here's my team, here are their skills, or it could be about specifics around documentation around the team, processes. It could be around other parts of how a team works, that you want to share when new teams start. And that's really about keeping and retaining and sharing knowledge so that teams can work smarter. Now, once the 3 main content areas, when we call this the jobs of Confluence, one example for the project collaboration job is often people feel like when you're working with software, you're really working with either Bitbucket or Jira Software, right? And an example here is who uses automatic issue transitions with Jira Software and Bitbucket? Does anyone even know what that is? Yeah? Okay, so what simply put is I've got a card on the page. I start in the to-do, and I'm a software engineer. And when I actually make changes in my code branch, so I can do a branch commit, I can open a pull request, and I go merge that pull request, it automatically transitions the Jira ticket for you. Because that way, we know that developers want to stay inside their code base, and they don't want to go and update the workflow. But if I'm a Scrum Master or I'm a project manager, that's a problem because I don't get a view of how my project is moving forward. So this is a very simple way to allow the ticket to move forward and have the latest and greatest information about the project and allow developers to stay in code. So this is called automatic issue transitions. Now, this is an example of how Jira and Bitbucket work together, but in a software team, there are way more people contributing to the lifecycle. So using the project collaboration example, I wanted to share how Confluence and HipChat extend that. Okay, so here goes. So in addition to to-do, in progress, and planning and release, in Confluence, it's more about the planning part and reporting and going through that process, because there are more people in a software team than just the developers. You've got your project managers, product managers, business analysts. Does this sound like a team that you have? Do you have teams like this? Testers? Yeah? So as I said, there are more than just the software team in the mix. So when you actually add these people in, you have different types of things happening. So let's look at how Confluence and HipChat add to this experience. So at the definition phase, I can create a software requirement, right? So this is a software requirement blueprint that we have built in. And then once you actually create the software requirement, you can link it to an epic inside of Jira. Right, so that's basically so you can have traceability. So you can map a particular document to a ticket inside of Jira. Right? Once you actually map it, you can link a room in HipChat where the team lives. So when a developer does a branch commit, you can also get that notification. Right? And then once you get past the branch commit, the initial branch commit, you can see what other planning work you need to do. And often things, being agile as we are, you have to make decisions and pivot as the ebbs and flows of a particular project happen. So for example, you might have to create a decision. So this is a decision blueprint. You might have to create several meeting notes. So when you do your sprint planning or other meetings, you can do that as well. And then again, once you actually open a pull request, you get a notification in the HipChat so everybody knows what's happening. You can actually start creating Jira reports. So for the tickets that have been transitioned, you can actually do the reporting on what is actually being shared. You can also see the different milestones inside of team calendars. Right, so you can actually pull all of that milestone information that you're having in Jira right inside of team calendars. And then the next thing is once you do a pull request, again, you'll get notified in HipChat, and you can actually generate release notes in Confluence. And then finally, you'll also get a notification. So once you actually do that either in Bamboo or another release tool, you actually can get notified of that in HipChat. Okay. So that's an example of how all of those products come together to actually help a team move forward and be more agile. Now, moving back to some of the culture side of what we do, it's not just about the tools, it's also about helping teams get set up for success. So we have another value called play as a team. And this value is around how teams work together and how teams actually cooperate together. And so this is called a health monitor. This is actually available online, so if you type in Atlassian Health Monitor, there's quite a few, there's a blog about this, and so you can actually download it and use it for yourself. Who's heard of the health monitor before? No? Okay, good. I'll walk you through it. So the health monitor is very, very simple. We used to call it the, I think, the health check. And what it was when a team is starting a project, we would test against about 8 points. They had 8-point check around whether the team was set up for success. So they looked at whether that team had a full-time owner, whether it was a balanced team. So we have a concept of a balanced team at Atlassian, which includes a product manager, a designer, and an engineer. And the reason why we call it a balanced team is because they provide a different perspective to get to the best outcome. And a shared understanding, which means, do we all have a same understanding of what we're trying to achieve here, what the mission is, what metric we're trying to move. The next thing is, speaking of metrics, have we defined the metrics? So, and on and on and on. So we have a few different things here. Do we have any dependencies, what the velocity is we expect? So these are all things that we ask teams to do. And we used to call it a health check, but we did it at the start, and what we realized is it's not just good to do it at the start, it's important to do it all the way through the project. And so you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4 is the different times in a project that we run the health monitor, and that's why we changed it from a check to a monitor, because it's a pulse. It's the pulse of the team. If you see too many reds there, then the team is flatlining, right? And there's no heartbeat because they're not doing that well. So these are some techniques that you can use potentially in your team as well. Now, bringing it back to the individual, you also need to help individuals move faster as well. And we've got a few things within the product to help you do that. So the first thing is around tasks. So who uses tasks in Confluence? Yeah? Okay, cool. Most of you. Has anyone used the decision template in Confluence? Oh, okay. That's great. But I was hoping for more hands. The reason why the decision template is really good, because there are some pivotal things that often happen in a company, particularly during the course of a project, that are never recorded, right? And then later on, you wonder, man, that was a really bad thing that we did, right? And you don't record them, and you move on. And it's not about pointing the finger at some person who he made the wrong decision, she made the wrong decision. It's not about that. It's about actually saying, when you do a retrospective, you can see the decisions that happened throughout the course of the project, the information that you had at the time, and the decision that you made based on that information. And the reason for that is because you can go through the stage of the project and learn, right? So I talked about being a learning organization. Decisions and recording decisions help you learn. So decisions not only help you record decisions, but also get you out of meetings. Because often you'll come together to make a decision. So how often are your meetings about decisions? Come on, feel the love. Come on, raise your hands if there's a half of you that have about decisions, that are meetings are about decisions. So you spend a lot of time in meetings talking about decisions. But if you recorded it on a page, we actually try and push decisions asynchronously as much as possible. So what we do is we document it on a page, we put the information on there, and we allow people to comment on that page. So if there's any violent feedback on that, we'll capture it all as part of the page, and then we might alter the options that we have and then make the decision. If we actually have to make it a meeting, what we do is when we send the invitation for the decision meeting, we actually send the invitation as a question. So we actually send it as a question because people can start thinking about what they have to decide upon before they even get into the meeting, right? And that's a very important thing, because often people will come into the meeting and say, what's going on here? But this puts everybody in the same frame of mind. And then they put a link to the page as well, so they can do pre-reading, so they can make the decision faster. We also have questions. I gave you pretty good examples of how we use questions to engage people and accepted answers. Commenting, we have lots of different comments, so you can have not just comments on pages, but you can have comments on files and annotate files. So it's not particularly easy to, if you use PowerPoint or Word. Word's not as bad, but particularly PowerPoint, to provide feedback on it. But you can upload a PowerPoint and you can put annotations around PowerPoint. So that's become a lot easier. And of course, we have inline comments now on pages that you can do. So this is the dashboard experience we recently released in 5.9. And one of the key things here is we have provided a thing for around my work. So, so if you can see that here, this my work area is something to help individuals work faster. Because we heard from people that Confluence was a little bit difficult to understand, like how do I get back to the work that I've been doing, right? And so my work is an area that allows recently visited and recently worked on, so people can get back to those things a lot faster. We also have other things like save for later and things like that. So these are other areas in the product that we're trying to improve upon to allow teams and individuals to get back to their work faster. Now, the other thing is we are trying to help bring the customers into every part of their narrative. So one of the challenges in organizations is you get tasked with doing something and then you forget exactly why you're doing it because you're in the flow of what you're doing, and often you forget the end customer in the process. So the end customer, for example, this one is another value of ours I can't swear. It's called don't F the customer. That's actually one of our company values, and that's really about making sure that we put the customer at the front and center of everything that we do. So that's guys. So the reason why we do that is, and how we do that is, we have this thing called personas. So you might have heard of this technique. So it's really about having different profiles for our customers so that we can actually build to the different archetypes of our customers. So, and we publish this on our website as well because we want to make sure that we're building for the right type of people. So we have different people in the mix. So either super technical people and to all the way to non-technical people. And so we publish this on our Atlassian Design Guidelines website. The other thing we have is this thing called a project poster. And remember I talked to you about the health monitor? So this is a thing that we use internally. It's a Confluence template that we've created. And this helps teams focus on how they can think about the customer every day. And it has a few simple parts. Ask the simple question, why are we doing this? And it forces teams to answer a problem statement. It asks them to explain what the impact of this problem is. So often, if for a Confluence example, why we built my work, the problem statement was people finding it hard to get back to what they were working on, right? And the impact of this problem is people aren't getting their work done in Confluence, or they can't navigate and find their way around as fast as we'd like. So that's a big problem because it's hitting everybody, right? So then we go into how do you judge success. So success is more people using that part of the product. And then different solutions. So we come up with different mock-ups and so on. So then we have a technique that we call the demo trust, right? So this is like a brains trust that we use internally. So this is actually a session that we're running where teams actually show the demo to different stakeholders. And this is how we actually improve the quality of the product. And we focus on the demo because if you think about the story we tell to our customers, as a software company, the story is really manifest in the demo, right? So that's what we focus on. So meetings do suck. So my ask is to help you make them matter. So put more things in Confluence. So you can put status meetings in Confluence. You don't ever have to have that meeting. You can put decisions in Confluence and maybe share what the question might be if you have to have that meeting. And then you can also figure out when you write the page who has to be involved in the decision. Because how often have you been in a meeting where there's about 20 people in the room, and then you realize only about 5 of those people actually have to be in there, and the rest of the people just have to know about the outcome. So pages really give you an option to share and disseminate that information without actually having to have that meeting or having everybody in the same room. So finally, you've got a few recipes for effective collaboration. So one is live your values. So I'm sure each of your companies have different values, but it's not just a matter of having the values, it's about living them. And I think the doctor said earlier, you can learn all these things from the different events and best practices you go to, but it's about how you apply it to your company or to yourself. And that's really important. So living your values, it's about living your values as a company and how you operate. Being more agile and vigilant by actually doing more measurement and improving how you behave, because it's about moving not just the tools that you move to, but it's also how you behave. How we measure and adapt is we use a number of different things. So we have this thing called vital signs. So we ask 6 questions every quarter to our staff about how they're engaging with the company every quarter. And depending on the outcomes of that, we take action. So if people aren't feeling engaged with the strategy, we do something about that. Just 6 questions. We also do check-ins. I'm sure you have regular check-ins with your staff. We look at external information, so that demo trust that I talked to you about. It's we found this that sort of style of doing things in a book called Creativity Inc. It's the story of the Pixar company, and they have this thing called the Brains Trust. And the Brains Trust was something that they created because the original Toy Story script was terrible. The toys were trying to kill each other, and it was a horrible outcome. So that was an example of how they improved the story. And we publish everything we do. So in Jira, everybody has visibility of what everybody is working on. So you can track and see what all the company is doing. And that's not just because Mike and Scott want to see what's going on. It's if you can get involved, and you can also help teams if you're a subject matter expert in that particular area. And then tools help you augment. So as much as I love Confluence, and I think it's going to be a great help to you, it's really about how you help your teams engage. And so connecting teams to your strategy and your values is a critical part. So how we do that is we have regular all hands, which means we get everybody together and share information with people. We share things like progress to our goals, different wins that teams are doing, as well as losses. So we share failures as much as we do wins. And that's about learning as well. We do check-ins, and we check in on the goals, how we're moving towards the goals. We have measurable outcomes. And then for self-checks, we have things like the health monitor. So teams can actually self-diagnose their problems and improve their cadence. And then we have different things that we can use within the product as well to show if the teams are on track. So reporting, burn down charts, and so on. So this is what we really come up with. So we help teams. So we help individuals who work in teams to get work done. And we also allow information to move faster within an organization. And ultimately, these 3 things are why we created Confluence in the first place. And these are actually the original principles of Confluence. So giving everybody a voice. So whether it's creating content, creating blogs, disseminating that information, we're open by default. So while we know that not everybody is ready to embrace complete transparency, by being open by default, it just means that our initial position is that everybody has access to that information until you set the permissions otherwise. And then obviously we're all about work, so all of those things you saw in blueprints and so on are all ways for you can get work done. It's not just a social tool. It's not about just wondering what everybody else is working on. It's about actually getting work done. So I'll leave you with 3 things that you can maybe help with your collaborative dysfunction. I originally, number 1, used to say embrace a more transparent way of working, but I know that's not exactly the step that everyone can take. So I think I'd phrase it more as embracing a shared understanding. So being able to have everybody on the same page. And it doesn't mean that everybody have to have access to all of the information, but at least everybody has access to the information that they should have access to. And they have a shared view of that. It's not stuck in someone's inbox or your inbox. The next thing is you have to speed up how you close the loop. So all of those techniques about having less meetings and things like that is how you close the loop faster. And then obviously having that shared understanding and being on the same page means that you're going to reference that content forever. And so hopefully you're not making the same mistakes again. You can learn from those past mistakes. All right, so those are the 3 areas that I hopefully you can take to your organizations. And that's the end of my present. Do we have time for questions or no? Okay. Okay. Thank you.